Yeah. Siege. Riley. Taz. Yeah. Set me free and give me death, there ain't no other choices. When I lay down and go to sleep, I keep on hearing voices. Little whispers in my head, man, is you fake or loyal? Find no water, death is sign, baby, pick your poison. These little demons living underneath my bed, creeping. Know the real, monster lives above them all, sleeping. That subtle breathing in your closet every single evening. Thought you never see me again, looks can be deceiving. When they hear the sound of the drum, they'll be saying, oh Lord, here they come. Yeah, here we come.
We take play seriously. That's why ATK chooses Omen by HP and Windows 10.
Here we come.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the ATK playoffs, one of our first stream matches where we see who's going to get to stick in the elite division and who falls down to the challenger division. Tonight's game is going to be 2XS versus Rage Quit Odyssey. Tonight I'm joined by the magnificent Blur. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. I'm really excited for this game tonight. It's two teams that we're really expecting to see a great game from. 2XS obviously coming out of the Challenger division, having proved themselves as a very new team, like shown off like that they can really tackle with the big boys, taking a map with Vanguard along the way, you know, taking out Overtime, a team that's been practicing for a year for this, Calypso, a team that's been around, you know, and actually just showing that they want to be one of these teams that's pushing for elite division in the near future. And Odyssey, you know, they're a team that have shown us that they have lots of bright sparks. They've taken that map of Kintsugi, that map of Evo, and they beat Leiden quite comfortably. And so putting themselves into this space is like a show that maybe they don't quite have the consistency just yet to compete in that elite division. So this could be a very interesting game tonight to see whether the upstarts of 2XS Esports or the kind of raw skill of Odyssey kind of pans out in this game.
You know, this is such an interesting game for these teams because this is, you know, the ATK tournament has been building up for so long, and it's just finally starting to settle into the top teams securing themselves consistently at the top, you know, playing through the calibration phases and playing into now these divisional stages. It means that these teams are really wanting to start building themselves as long-term careers in the ATK zone and in South African Overwatch in general. So if these guys really want to prove themselves as a good team and get to play against good teams consistently, they really need to win this match tonight. You know, you only get better by playing against really good opposition. So now is one of the last chances these guys for a while are going to be able to get themselves into that upper league and then get to use that to build themselves further as a team.
Yeah, and it's exactly that. Like, if you're Odyssey in this situation, this is your do or die game. You're looking at this and being like, we have to win this because otherwise next leg we're playing against new teams. We're playing against teams that, you know, we've played so long and so hard to try and get out of the league of. You know, and they're just not going to be getting that same experience, which means that the teams of Evo, Kintsugi, the teams that they really want to be challenging and beating, are just going to get leagues and leagues ahead of them because they're getting a higher level of experience, really.
Yeah, definitely.
But, you know, if you're 2XS, this is a huge opportunity. You know, the playoff is a huge opportunity for you to just really show what you can do, show that you can compete at that stage, and show that you have that strategic, like, kind of insight to outplay the opposition at a kind of, you know, deeper level.
Indeed, 2XS really wanting to prove themselves. And, you know, we've got a bit of a familiarity, a bit of loyalty to 2XS here. Well, I do, because it is going to be the Peach ZA's team. He is one of our broadcasters, always responsible for bringing you guys. So he's joining his team. That team, 2XS Esports, is going to be made up of Palio and Dankiel in your two top tank positions, you know, really going to try and secure themselves a lot of position. You know, we were talking just before the stream about how important tank play is, you know, where DPS, as long as you are good with at least one or two really good, powerful or meta heroes, you can consistently get gold damage and gold kills and can contribute well to a team fight. But tanks have such an important role in it, so these two are going to want to lead their team into the fight. Got to be backed up by Little Clumsy and go outside. Guys, that is go outside. It's three words. We got specific instructions. It's not go outside, it's not goat side, it's go outside. Hopefully he hasn't been lately. And in your support roles, you have the Peach ZA, our favorite streamer, and Cubic in those two support positions.
Yeah, and looking on the other side, we've got on RQ Odyssey, we've got the name. It's a very familiar roster for us. It's Pretz and Trigger Happy. They play together nearly every week. We're used to seeing these two really be a pretty consistent tank duo. Pretz, of course, known for his playing really on top of playing really good tank, heading off the map multiple times. He's done it so many times on stream. JRV, obviously a very prolific hit scan. Rinku Haireru, the projectile player to match. Fluffy, of course, a very storied player in the local Overwatch scene, having been on both 2CP and the now defunct GG roster. Now ending up on Odyssey, really strong player in that backline, really going to put a lot of healing and a lot of utility out in that position. And Shadows from the old DDC Dominion roster, really good main support player coming in here. Used to play main tank, but now plays main support for Odyssey.
Shadows has been an interesting character in a couple of the matches that I've watched so far. We've talked about Pretz doing these fantastic, dramatic, sailing off into the distance plays. But Shadows has been one that's been quite instrumental in the team's success for Rage Quit Odyssey. We saw against a couple of the upper level teams, Shadows picks up people like that Anna. And if Shadows gets pressured in a team fight, the team tends to lose the fights quite quickly. But if Shadows is given a bit of space and is able to stay alive, then Shadows can really help the team and just consistently support well to help Rage Quit drag out a fight and even win a fight. So our first map here is going to be Lijiang Tower. So much variability in these maps, and we have Control Center to be our first point.
Yeah, Control Center, very, very brawl-centric point. I'd be surprised if we don't see a Reinhardt and a Zaya from both sides here. They're going to be coming in really, really super aggressive, going for a lot of aggression onto the enemy team, using those May walls to isolate and split the team fight, and going hard aggression with those Lucios and those Reinhardts into the backline of the enemy, almost instantly, I'd imagine. On the side of 2XS, you actually have a McCree and an Anna. That means they're going to be playing a little bit slower, a little bit more poke intensive, and looking for that kind of value from the anti-nade. But from Odyssey, you've got that Reaper and them Moira. So they're going to be going full-on, full aggression. The kind of cone healing from the Moira is serving to keep their team alive for, longer and more collectively in the team fight.
It's going to be interesting to see if Rage Quit Odyssey can initiate in the way that they want. They obviously need to get themselves some good positional advantage. They managed to throw up a good May wall into the beginning there, but they may have overcommitted a little bit. Now Pretz caught out on the opposite side of a May wall. So far, both teams not managing to pick off anyone. Some good positional plays to tussle in that little corridor. Now they're starting to push out. A good May wall from Rage Quit now separates the teams, but Palio gets the pin onto Pretz, and that's going to load him up. He's going to probably go down now as he gets frozen up in the middle of the fight. In fact, manages to get the counter kills, and so 2XS just taking those first hits and then pushing forward and securing the first point.
And it was such good play from Odyssey to shape that fight into a position where 2XS were really not in an advantage position pushing into that fight. The Paleo Shadow just served to absolutely clean up that fight. Coming into the next fight though, Pretz will have his online, and there's a lot of old charge online for Odyssey that is going to be working towards taking this point back quickly.
They're looking to push forward quickly. We talk about that. Oh, that delayed Earth Shatter came down and still manages to take out 3. But what an amazing May wall coming out there from Little Clumsy to just stop the rest of the follow-up from the team. Now it's going to be 2XS with that sound barrier, going to be looking to put some aggression on themselves. They get pushed back a little bit by the May wall. They've got Palio who's pushed forward. He's building up already to that next Earth Shatter that he used so well to clean up the last fight. To go outside, has got himself a Deadeye, but it's instead going to be the Blizzard that gets thrown out by Little Clumsy at the beginning of the fight. Pays with his life. JLV26 in the backline gets that massive Death Blossom, which just allows the rest of his team to push forwards, and Rage Quit turn a good fight in their favor.
I think if you're Odyssey in this situation, you need to be looking at Pretz and saying, we need you to play a little bit more consistently, a little bit more patiently here. Because he's getting really aggressive into this fight, and it's splitting between he gets really good early value and tending towards later in the fight he actually ends up dying. And if your main tank is dead and their main tank isn't, it puts you at such a big disadvantage in the team fight.
Oh, we see a lot of ultimates coming out straight away, notably the Earth Shatter and the Blizzard being thrown out. So that's going to separate the team fight out a little bit. So far, 2XS managing to get a couple of big kills now. Pret's going to be the big one to fall. JRV26 as well. The rest of the team just has to scurry now. So Rage Quit taking the last fight, but being cleaned up quite quickly in this one.
We're going to see the same thing going on in that fight. They use their Blizzard there. They get good value from the Blizzard, but eventually they just end up in a situation where they don't have their main tank and 2XS does. And that's been a really good kind of staging point for 2XS to take it quite slowly and win.
Oh, we see the Graviton Surge coming out, but that May wall just doing such beautiful work to just separate off the team. No damage coming in after that. So now they can counter out with a sound barrier of their own. Pretz into the back, Palio into the back line, sorry, gets that Earth Shatter. It's going to be massive, just really aggressive play coming out there and paying off. Stingle taking it on to the rest of the team. 2XS again come out with the team fight.
And this is exactly what you're wanting to see from this game. The underdogs coming in really, really strong, showing that they know exactly how they want to use their abilities, their ults, and their aggression to really put themselves in a good position to go forward in this match.
That was good clinical play coming out. Little Clumsy just hiding in the corner there, waiting to throw out that Blizzard. Makes Rage Quit just... The time clicking up, it means that Rage Quit can't get back onto the point.
And that you have to say in that round, you saw a severe main tank difference. In terms of how those two were playing. Palio really was taking the fights to Odyssey a lot of that point in time, but also playing in a way that was kind of so Peach able to really assist with the Ana play there and really keep him alive. Coming comp that we've seen from 2XS over the past couple of weeks, this Reinhardt, Winston, Genji, Tracer, Ana, Lucio, which is basically a hard commit dive, other than the fact that you're running a Reinhardt. So we're gonna have to see how Palio fits in with that. On the other side of Odyssey, with Odyssey, we've got the Symmetra and the Lucio with the double barrier to try and get to point and take control early.
You know what I love about this, especially on this specific map, is there's no verticality that the Reinhardt really struggles with in this point. So he can run back and follow up with the team fight, even charge into the team fight from a distance. They have managed to get, Rage Quit has managed to get onto the point though. They've got that Symmetra and they've used the teleporter well to get themselves a bit of strategic positioning. 2XS with that dive comp is going to be able to take it on their terms though. Now they've got the Ryan charging in from the distance. Palio looking for that dive Reinhardt, and they've got a good good anti-heal grenade on to the rest of Rage Quit. See, taking quite a few damages here so far, but they're not shutting down JOV 26 on the Symmetra. JOV is going to be able to get that beam up very, very powerfully, and they've just got to take out this Lucio. They managed to secure the first point, and after a good initiation, Rage Quit managed to take it.
Yeah, and that's the strength of Rage Quit's comp. They have a lot. They have 6 things that are basically all focusing on one collective goal. Whereas, you know, you're looking at 2XS's, and there's some dive, there's some brawl, there's a little bit of denial. You know, you're looking at a comp that's really not very consistent. And I think that's kind of the strength of Odyssey, is if they play their strategy and they play it well, they're expected to come out on top of those team fights.
You know, with that May and that Symmetra, you got to initiate cleanly. Now they've managed to get it. Oh, that Earth Shatter came and just takes down Palio, who was nano boosted up, even followed up by the freeze. And so Palio's, even tries for the Earth Shatter. That's going to be wasted and doesn't even get it at the end of that. So huge commitment from 2XS.
And we talk about the heroics of Palio in the first round there, and Pretz absolutely showing his value on the return here. You know, absolutely shutting down the nano boosted Ryan with the Earth Shatter, the charge, and, you know, eventually putting him in a position where he Earth Shattered late in the fight and got no value with it. Good play from Pretz and good play from Odyssey there to keep their advantage.
It's going to be interesting for what 2XS's strategy is for now. They're just a little bit off these ultimates here on the Tracer and the Genji. They managed to get up the Primal Rage going forwards now. They're going to have to fight into this Photon Barrier. Gravitic Flux is also going to come on up at the stage. So Odyssey dropping down some ultimates, but are they getting the value? Somehow 2XS has managed to build up that Dragon Blade. He's going to be trying for a lot. He's managed to get down the Symmetra, not going to get anything more though. Instead going to be taken out by the Lucio. And so now it's going to be, again, the Pulse Bomb dropped. Rinku has got that Blizzard if they need it to take this fight, but it seems like Rage Quit Odyssey is going to be able to push this. No, it seems like 2XS really want to take this at this point. They're going to have to fight into that Blizzard on the point. Even with that sound barrier, it's going to be Rage Quit managing to clear up this point quite nicely. Fluffy managing to even take out the Beach, and just with the Tracer and a Lucio on the point now to try and stall this out. They're going to be bringing in a Hanzo to try and just get some of these red bodies off the points, but they're not going to be able to clear up anyone just yet, and it seems like with just a couple of seconds left, it's going to be these elusive heroes, but they are fighting into a May, they're fighting into a Symmetra, and so with the rest of 2XS now trying to come in, we do see that Earth Shatter coming out, so Palio does drop that, gets good significant control, but nothing to follow up, and so eventually Rage Quit Odyssey.
Yeah, and that's a really good play from Odyssey there. They had an answer to everything 2XS tried to throw at them. When the Genji Blade came out, the beat came down. When the When Reinhardt came in aggressively, the Mei wall came up. You know, at every step of that engagement, there was just an answer for everything 2XS was trying to do. And even when it looked like 2XS was coming in with all their resources, getting the advantage, getting the dominance on point, out comes the Mei ult, and that's the fight over. It was really, really well played. Going into this round though, Lijiang Gardens, very, very dive-centric map, and you can see Odyssey already tending to that dive comp. And from the side of 2XS though, you're reverting back to that aggressive brawl comp that they were playing in that first round, the Mei coming out, and currently sitting on the Tracer, but switching on to McCree now. So it's going to be a game of two styles here, whether it's going to be the denial of the Odyssey dive, or the consistency of the 2XS brawl, we'll have to see.
You know, if Fluffy has put pressure on, then it's going to be difficult for him to support Pretz and Trigger Happy going to the backline, especially when you got someone like Little Clumsy on that Mei who's going to be able to split the fights up quite nicely. Also going to get those bullets through Palio's big shield, but they've been able to take enough of a different angles. You know, you got Rinkuraru there jumping into the air on that Echo, just managing to put damage in from above. Seems like Rage Quit is going to surround the whole team of 2XS, slowly just chipping at them from different angles. Now it's going to be the Mei to fall. Little Clumsy, even the most durable characters have to fall to this onslaught, but they're managing to turn a little bit of damage around the other way. Not enough to get any significant kills, though. Rinku's going to go down, going to be able to rejoin the fight. And Rage Quit with a very clean picking apart, take out that first round.
Yeah, and that's fantastic space denial from Rage Quit Odyssey there. The engagement actually started on Fluffy's anti-nade hitting the backline of 2XS, which means they were able to come in quite aggressively, get a couple of picks, and then just shape the fight, pick off one by one until it was over. So really, really nice engagement from the side of Odyssey, and going forward now, them having early control means that it's going to be really, really hard for 2XS to reach this point.
You know, that's kind of what you're looking for, though, to be a dive comp, is when you get that small advantage, you should be able to follow up and just consistently take kills. You don't want to dive, you don't want to throw away a couple of easy picks the other way. You really want to just secure everyone. Now we're going to have to see them fighting, though, into this Earth Shatter. Does get stunned up quite quickly. They've got a couple of kills. JRV26, the only real death so far. Trigger Happy just losing the mech, and so the DPS is still managing to be alive and be very, very effective in putting some pressure here onto 2XS. So far, Rage Quit managing to stay alive. Pretz is going to go down, and there's that main tank deficiency that we see in the previous fights, and going to see if he can get back. He's going to have that Primal Rage available. JRV26 getting a massive pulse bomb there on the side, though. Going to be able to turn a lot of pressure now onto 2XS, and so 2XS managing to get a little bit of reinforcements, but I think it's too little too late, and now Palio just trying to get out alive. Doesn't even manage to do that, and 68% for Rage Quit Odyssey.
Yeah, and looking at these two team fights here is that, you know, we looked at Odyssey really poke down really efficiently, and it's almost as if 2XS are approaching these team fights too slowly. Coming to this next team fight, Odyssey have a lot of ults online. They have the Primal, they have the Diva Bomb, and they have the Duplicate online, which could absolutely stagger this team if they're able to get good value out of a Reinhardt Duplicate. On the other side though, 4 ults online, including that Blizzard, could really spell the end.
Seems like 2XS going to try and drop a couple at the beginning of the fight, try and secure it, go outside, going with managing to get anything out of it. Peach also dropping the nano boost onto point, and Pretz just managing to control up so well, manages to get rid of Palo. So Palio are going to be out of this fight. Now they're finally going to drop that Blizzard. It's going to be difficult, but they don't even manage to catch anyone in that. Now a nano boost comes out onto the Rinkuraru, and so Rinku just power as Echo on this point, going to be able to deny so much space, not even go outside on a Tracer, managing to stay alive for more than a fraction of a second. And Rage Quit, after losing the first round, managed to come back and take it 2-1.
Yeah, and I mean, they looked very, very good in these second 2 rounds, and they looked like they had a plan. You know, a lot of the fights that 2XS lost there looked like they weren't really coming in with any kind of like definite structure, weren't really coming in, you know, with definite kind of engagement. They were taking very long to get into position, taking very long to engage, and they would come in. Odyssey would just have resources ready to use. This play of the game actually comes from the first fight on this map, and you know, that was definitely where they looked the strongest, where they had this very tight and claustrophobic area that they had to fight in a certain way. So going into the later games in this match, you're expecting to see, you know, how can 2XS show that they're able to kind of take fights in a structured, in a sensible, and like in a coordinated fashion. Because I think that's the big difference here, is that 2XS didn't look as coordinated in Odyssey on the 2 rounds where there was a bit more open space to play with.
You know, it seemed to me that 2XS was amazing at those heroic plays. You know, we saw Palio with that Earth Shatter just winning a fight in an instant, where the team was able to do so much and follow up with it nicely. But if they couldn't pull off those sort of heroic plays, if they had something like the May War, which countered it so beautifully, or we did see Pretz there getting that Earth Shadow in the night market, where they were just able to shut down the Nano Boost, just clear out that Reinhardt threat, and stop Paleo from doing something heroic and majestic and wonderful that we love to see. You know, sometimes it is that methodical counter that you were talking about earlier, that counter to every trick that they may be able to, 2XS might be able to throw at them. Being able to counter it so methodically is what won Rage Quit that round.
Yeah, and I mean that is really what it was. Is that, you know, Odyssey, they at the beginning of the round they instantly had a strat they switched to. They instantly switched to their Symmetra, they instantly switched to their dive, and they came into each round with an absolute control of how they wanted to engage and what they were looking for as their engagement kind of trigger. And in that last round, it was that anti-nade from Fluffy. Before that, it was just taking control of points and letting the enemy team come to them. And you know, if you're looking at 2XS wanting to compete with these teams in Elite Division, it's something they're really going to have to look at. They have to have plans. They have to have contingencies, you know, and they have to have a basic structure that suits like a macro playstyle. And, you know, you can't be relying on rudimentary win conditions like, oh yeah, Paleo's going to get nanoed and go kill 4, because, you know, maybe it works on one map, but it's not going to work consistently.
Yeah, you know, there are certain strategies that we've seen work so well. You know, we talk about them. They have specific names. I mean, come on, that's how meta works. Is you have bunker strats and you have Symmetra strats and you have Maze strats, and you know, it seemed like Rage Quit when they started swapping onto, like, especially in that second round, they ran a very definite Symmetra strat. In the third round, they managed to run a really nice dive comp and a patient dive comp. So you know, once you've learned the basics of each of those ways of fighting, like Rage Quit so obviously has, they can then start choosing the right ones for the situations and developing and polishing those strats. 2XS is their strat is go Paleo. Like it sounds great in a Disney movie, but it's not. It might not be enough to carry them into that Elite Division.
And I mean, we can see from the Lijiang Control Center game that they are capable of that type of play. They are capable of really taking the fight and like delivering it in a way that's really beneficial for their team. But Odyssey have shown that they're able to do it more consistently. They're showing that they're able to do it with a little bit more consistency and a little bit more kind of organization than 2XS were able to manage there. So going into Blizzard World now, we're expecting to see, you know, can 2XS show that they have that kind of ability to manage their fights, to manage their engagements in a way that will really give them the advantage over Odyssey, or is it going to be an attempt to try and beat them in the individual duels, beat them in the individual skill? Because if they try and beat them in the individual skill, I worry that they get beaten by superior team play.
You know, we see it so often that a control point map doesn't actually show who's going to be the team to win for the night. You know, we've seen it where one team takes it and then gets 3-1'd in the other direction. But it's a very nice sign to see how the teams just figure out how the other one plays. You know, what sort of things are you capable? You might have found that 2XS was just being a little bit overconfident. They're here, they're challenging for that position. They've got a lot of momentum behind them. They may have been very confident going in. And then they were surprised at some of the counters that Rage Quit pulled out, because there were some beautiful ones there. I mean, we did see Rage Quit playing some excellent plays, and while they were doing it so consistently, we didn't just sit there going, oh my goodness, my mind was blown by this specific play, because they were pulling out enough of them. Now 2XS might have just figured that out a little bit. They might have a little bit more respect for Rage Quit going in, and so Blizzard World is a map that's very based about how you feel against the other team. Do you engage? Do you sit back? Do you poke and prod? There's a lot of opportunities. So maybe 2XS has just had some time to think about and actually test themselves against Rage Quit.
Yeah, and I think on this map, we've seen a map that's very brawl and dive intensive, and now we're coming into a map that's, you know, got a lot more space for a little bunker. And bunker's a really hard strategy to breach if you're not able to engage it cleanly. You know, I think we might see a little bit out of Odyssey or that Ryan Sigma style strat again, but the bunker specifically is something that's like, you know, we've seen a lot of the brawl and a lot of the dive, but we haven't really seen that kind of slower, you know, more poke deliberate playstyle yet. And that's going to be really important going forward, and really important for the team to try and win this game. Is that I think, you know, the team that kind of wins this map is going to be the team that controls these long sidelines and this really aggressive positioning, like meta game a little bit better.
It's gonna be interesting to see, especially considering this is such a different style. Those longer sidelines, those longer fights, those poke battles is kind of what we expect to see on so many of the other maps. I mean, this is the hybrid map. We'll see that on an escort map. You know, it's gonna be interesting to see how these teams carry over that momentum and whether that control point mentality and skill carries over to something that's effectively a different game and quite a significant one in the long run.
Yeah. Looking at the side of Odyssey here, they are going to be running that bunker style. They're running a Torbjorn to check for that the likes of that Genji and that Tracer that's 2XS showed that they were willing to run in that previous game. But they are going to be sticking to a very poke-intensive gameplay. The Mercy to pocket the Ashe there to give us some extra, you know, the Sigma and Arista to spam out. And, you know, that's really going to be what we're looking at here. From the side of 2XS, they're running that kind of weird dive. Weird, you know, kind of engagement. It was engaged by the Winston. But you've got a Reinhardt there, something that's meant to be a kind of main tank engagement.
You know, maybe that Reinhardt's just here again to reinforce the fight once his other tank has managed to push forward with it. Tank kill on that. Ooh, that's a lot of damage coming out. And they're trying to push forward, but they're not really. Oh, that headshot from JLV26. Little Clumsy standing very proudly in that doorway and getting punished for it.
Yeah, and I mean, this is already... So you're seeing the kind of difference in strategy here. You know, they come out, they're just taking so much damage and approaching this fight, and they don't really know how to engage with the counter play. You just see Palio taking so much poke damage, his shield is taking so much damage, and then Little Clumsy actually getting picked off by the Ashe there.
You know, if they've got to engage cleanly. This Rinkararo turret here is going to be able to clear those points, and you can see it instantly goes to work, just putting that pressure onto Dankiel, and Dankiel not managing to get out in time, and so it's still going to just carry on doing damage. The Reinhardt can't push forward in front of it. They've got to dive into the backlines of this team. They don't really have anything to deal with that turret, and so 2XS just managing to get a couple of kills now. Again, they still haven't cleared out that turret though. They've got a Hanzo shooting forward now and have pushed forward now. In fact, have managed to turn this on their own, just looking dangerously weak in the beginning of that fight, but pushing on to the point.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Odyssey can recontest this, but even if they don't, like, it's a fight that we've seen being won by, you know, kind of some strong individual players. We've seen Little Clumsy come in there with a couple of picks, and, you know, Palio coming in super aggressively onto press, and, you know, now they're just cleaning up in the situation, and it's really, really difficult to see that being a sustainable, like, long-term strategy for this team going forward.
Well, they managed to win the first fight with quite a lot of time, in fact, 4 minutes 30 as they're going to go through the archway, and so certainly has a bit of an ult advantage as well. We've got Palio going up for that Earth Shatter, go outside, going to have that bob instantly. Of course, the defensive sound barrier also going to be up in this fight. Oh, Dankiel taking a huge amount of damage very quickly. In fact, is going to fall to Fluffy, so it's going to be 2XS taking an early disadvantage in this point, but they still seem to want to push forward a little bit.
Yeah, I think that the crucial part to this point 2 of this world is going to be a lot of high ground. So we see some high ground challenge coming out from 2XS. They have a pretty good chance of getting through here, but you know, if we see them push along this main pathway and really struggle to take control of this high ground, I think we could see a situation where Odyssey are just able to sit up top and spam down on them. That said, Pretz and Trigger have both given up that high ground, and they're, you know, letting their team kind of contest that Winston without them.
Yeah, in fact, they pushed forward in the previous fight, and now they're going to have to fight from the low ground, even split from the team by that Dragon Strike, but Bob doing so much work in the background. Just massive in the background there, even managing to get that headshot onto the counter Ana, and so with a single ultimate there, they managed to win the fight, even after Rage Quid was dropping a couple of their own.
And that's so difficult there, because, you know, you see Dankiel coming in quite aggressive and quite, like, proactive every fight they go into, but, you know, there's never any follow-up for him. He's not being followed by a Diva or a Wrecking Ball, or even, you know, something like a Sigma that can kind of spam damage behind him. He's really going in very much alone, and his DPS are also very long. Palio permanently stuck on the low ground and he's getting nothing done.
Seems like Palio's not even wanting to follow his team onto that high ground. They're more concerned about pushing the payload right now than actually winning the fight, and this is going to be bad for them in the long run. You've got to win that fight first, then you can push the payload. Instead, they were looking to fight this out, just brawl to the death here. Pretz still sitting on this high ground now, protecting the Mercy up there. Instead, the rest of his team is able to do work here on the low ground. So far, though, 2XS getting a couple of kills, so it still has not got the advantage on positioning. Now, though, with Pretz dropping down to the low ground, it's going to be up to 2XS to try and make something happen. They're getting pressured quite heavily, though, and have lost the Reinhardt shield, and so Rage Quit looking to extend this lead. They're going to put the pressure on and chase back 2XS.
And that's such a nice play there from Odyssey. Although they looked the worst team for a lot of that fight, they were just able to back up that position a little bit, back up a little bit more towards spawn, and get that advantage for their team coming out there and able to push back 2XS at the end of that. So that's really, really nice from them to pull out a lot of resources from 2XS, use a couple of their own, and bring back the win for them. 1 minute 52 left on the clock here, and you're really looking at the nano mirror here to really determine this, and also the possibility of Jeff.
But look how long Pretz has on the high ground. Pretz didn't have to leave that high ground as an Orisa for the entire fight.
I mean, that's very much, again, what we're looking at here. He can't really do this all on his own.
Pretz now still again on the high ground, and they're going to drop down to reinforce the team. They've got the Bob now to follow up. Jervy did so much work with that in the previous fight. And so 2XS having pushed forward quite quickly. In fact, now going to be pressured the other way as Trigger Happy is going to charge forward. They're a little clumsy getting taken down behind the line of Trigger Happy, in fact. And so Rage Quit again just engaging on their terms.
Yeah, and on the side of 2XS now, they're actually going to be switching in a Widowmaker. They're trying to say, okay, we see that you're running this Ashe, and you see that you're getting value, but we want to try and challenge you on the long sideline. And they're probably going to get her on that siege cannon up there and try and just get her spamming down on that Ashe to make sure that she can't get those dynamites, she can't get that position advantage, just try and get them through this last bit of point.
We see now Palio just choosing this high ground. This is something that they've struggled along the top there, and they've swapped off completely from that that Winston dive composition. Now just charging in valiantly. Palio very deep in the back line here as his team now reinforced, and there's going to be a fight here on the payload, and that's going to be won so far by Rage Quit Odyssey. Rage Quit also in the back line, managing to take out that Reinhardt, and just no more support coming out. And with 20 seconds left, it's going to be very difficult for Odyssey to get for 2XS to get back on point.
Yeah, and that's really good fight management again. Against backing up, Torp turret kills the flanking DPS, and you know, coming into this last fight, 3 fights, nearly 4 up for Odyssey versus none on the side of 2XS. Maybe the Shadow, maybe the Beats. You know, it's really tough for them to get into this fight construct.
It just seems like they have never chosen this fight on their terms. Now again, just going for that low ground, but that's a kill box right there. They've managed to put down the Molten Core into it. Now the Gravitic Flux is going to secure that Palio goes down the front line, Peach in the back line as well. Now it's just a matter of cleaning up the rest of the team.
And Rink just establishing such good control of the payload space with that Molten Core onto the payload and behind it. And Trigger able to just keep them trapped in that area. Palio actually trapped under the bridge in the Molten Core ends up being his demise. So, you know, really, really nice play there from Odyssey to keep it on point 2. And we don't see many teams hold this. Unless they hold first point, you know, you're expecting very much Odyssey to be able to push the rest of this payload through to a point 2 with victory.
You know, it seemed to come down to that high ground to me. It seemed like Rage Quit just took a position that they were very, very happy with and then held it. And 2XS never engaged them up on that high ground. They split the team fight. They constantly had Palio on the low ground, who is Reinhardt. He either needs to be protecting something very valuable behind him, or he needs to be in that front line, just escorting the team into the front line and then being able to use that hammer. Just being able to sit back and sit on a payload is not something that he was getting enough value out of. And they just didn't threaten the high ground. So if Rage Quit can understand that and take control of that high ground in the second part, then they should have a pretty easy victory. But they've still got to do this first point. What does 2XS do to hold this, like, here, right now?
Looking at this Ryan style comp again, you know, you can see Palio is obviously very comfortable on the Reinhardt, but you know, you need a little bit more tactical diversity on this point. You know, again, that bunker was so strong for Odyssey from the first fight here, and you're gonna see again, Odyssey are just gonna be able to set up and poke them down from multiple angles until they win. I think if you're 2XS in the situation, you have to be looking for entry now. You play super aggressive, but they don't really have the DPS for that. They have DPS to poke and play slowly and try and look for an advantage over time. And against the bunker comp that's playing with the Echo and the Ashe, yeah, they could have a really tough time making that a reality for their team.
You know, So Anna McCree, you're really hoping that they're going to just overextend a little bit, and then with consistent good hits, you can really punish bad positional mistakes. But when you've got a team that can play bunker like this, they can choose their positioning very carefully and just fight from a very secure positioning. So it's very difficult for someone to overextend. Rinku, in fact, is going to go over the top there, manages to get the sticky bombs on to go outside. So it's going to be a lot of their poke damage taking a huge hit, and so they just now extend that advantage with these barriers. They're just able to leapfrog them onto point now, and still with Rinku flanking around the back, they just managed to pick off their Palio at the end. And it's very clinical finish.
And you can see that the heroes on the side of 2xs are getting so little value here. You know, Clumsy getting a little bit of value spamming down the shields and looking for damage from that. But you know, go outside, Dankil getting no value spamming out from that little corner where they can't really take up any position. You know, you look at the difference in the ult charges between them and Rinku and JRV and Trigger Happy, who've all been able to just take up positions and spam. It's, you know, it's night and day. You know, they just have such good control of this map, and here they are taking control of this high ground again and really giving
You know, this is how they won the first round, is they just took control. And when you've got something like Rinkuraru, in fact, going to go down to the Baptiste, but doing what he's trying to do, they're just getting weird positions, getting damage into the back lines. You got Pretz putting pressure on the front there with Trigger Happy. You got Rinku in the back lines, and while 2XS has now managed to take up a position on the payload, they're going to still be fighting into a high ground advantage. Just this whole siege cannon, just such a good cover coming out here for Rage Quit Odyssey. And Rage Quit going to now drop that amplification matrix to give themselves a bit more damage down this long sideline. Going to be able to push 2XS off the payload, but still now it seems that 2XS going to try and take a high ground advantage. Ooh, managing to even get Rinkuraru on there. It's going to be a lot of damage out for them as this team fight just extends even further. Rage Quit Odyssey now pushing around this right hand side with Trigger Happy, in fact, looking to get a very aggressive play going on here, followed up closely by Pretz, but quite far on his own, is quite healthy though, and just has so much positional play that he's managed to get his team quite good standing here as they push on to this final point.
And looking at this next fight coming in here, there's going to be so many ults coming in from both sides of this fight. Oh,
and that's it. Oh man, that gravitic flux just lifted them off and they couldn't contest.
What a good play there from Trigger Happy to absolutely take the wind out of 2X's sails. You know, they were going to come in with 5 ults, maybe 6 with the Moira coming online on the Coalescence, but you know, that was absolute control there from the side of Odyssey to just lift them off the point and get spam into them to actually just take control of that match. That's really, really well played from Odyssey. They're really showing what their kind of worth is on these really structured compositions, these really kind of like drilled and really kind of like consistent compositions, versus 2XS that look a little bit out of their depth in this situation where they're playing something, playing heroes that they look comfortable on, but that don't really seem to be working in unison together to really create fights. You know, we saw in that last fight there, where that was dragged out for so long. 2XS were getting picks, they were getting kills, but you know, over time, Odyssey just whittled away at them, sitting behind their shields, spamming out at them, and they had to back off. They had to go around the corner, and then they died because Odyssey were able to come around the corner and do damage to them. And that eventually got to so much, like, you know, it got so extended that by the end of that, they'd pushed almost all the way to the capture, and 2XS were only then coming out for that last little staggered team fight that they got lifted off the payload for.
I mean, when you don't even have to win the team fights to get it at the end, it means that when the previous team fight was so good that you win the next team fight before it even starts, like that's impressive. But it just seemed that Rage Quit was playing so well together from a strategic play. It's going to be 2XS to go back now and sit and think about how they need to beat Rage Quit without winning the pickoff game. They're going to have a little bit of time to think about that as we're now going to go to a quick 2-minute break, guys. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back for more of this promotion relegation match between Rage Quit Odyssey and 2XS. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to this 80K playoffs, this 80K playoffs division, where we're seeing Rage Quit Odyssey taking on 2XS. Rage Quit looking to hold on to that upper position in that elite division. 2XS looking to make a name for themselves and breaking out of that challenger division. So far, though, 2XS not managing to come through in either of our games.
Yeah, and I mean, you're seeing, we saw maybe a little wobble from Odyssey early on in that control center game on Lijiang Tower, but Blizzard Wolf was so in their favor. They lost first points and then they never looked like they lost control again. They got a little bit of territory, but Odyssey were able to just clean up every single fight, just as it looked like 2XS might, be staging a little bit of an upset. And on the attack, it was just the same thing. They just played it slow, played it steady. Even though they lost picks, they just kept it going, and eventually they just won through attrition. They were able to just win through just poking them and taking such a broad advantage over 2XS that, they won without even having to actually completely win the fight. So going into Volskaya now, a map that's, so strategically diverse. You can play bunker here, you can play brawl here, you can play dive here on attack and defense, for both strats. We're going to see what these two teams are made of in this respect. We're going to see whether or not they're going to be able to kind of show Odyssey what their kind of playstyle is, and whether they're going to be able to subvert the things that Odyssey are trying to run at them.
Volskaya is a difficult map to push in the first place, but it is something that 2XS can use to their advantage. Is if they can get those picks, they love getting those picks. Reinhardt, great hero here on Volskaya, so they are going to be very comfortable feeling with Palio on that Reinhardt if he chooses to run that. And then if they can play those pick advantages and then escalate that into winning a quick team fight, certainly not against using aggression is the team with 2XS, but it's going to be Rage Quit on both attack and defense, that if they can just get that war of attrition just to win out those long team fights, if they're on defense at the beginning, they just have to win the fight over however long it takes. If it takes them 3 minutes to win a single team fight, that's fine. They just need to win the team fights. And so Rage Quit already has that confidence in winning those long drawn-out team fights. But 2XS here has the opportunity that they go for those weird, quick brawl plays or hero plays. That can work when you just need to clear a point once.
Yeah, and looking at the two comps coming out here, on the side of Odyssey, we've firstly got Knoppies coming in for Pretz for map 3 here, but we've got a dive composition here. We've got a really, a dive comp that's really going to be looking to control high ground and spam from multiple angles, and really just kite out any type of aggression that 2XS pushes onto them. 2XS, we don't have a full comp yet, but we have Junkrat, we have Roadhog, heroes that are really going to... Oh, we actually have Winston, but we have, this Junkrat and this Reinhardt, heroes that are really going to want to play very directly and are going to struggle if they have to play up, and they're going to struggle if they have to play, against things that are running away from them and playing out of little chokes that they can kind of spam out. So, compositionally, you maybe think that Odyssey has a bit of an advantage, but let's see how it pans out.
Might be up to 2XS to try to take this high ground. Instead, they're very confused here, just hanging around behind this dump truck, not really wanting to go in, just taking huge amounts of damage from a distance. Now they've split up into a couple of differences. They've got the Winston, Dankyo trying to threaten that high ground, but the rest of Rage Quit just collapse upon him, now just running away from the rest fights that they want to. Now it's time to hunt down the rest of the team, and with such mobility, they really can. And so 2XS really needs to rethink either the way they're going to approach this fight or what heroes they're going to bring to it.
And I mean, looking at the comp that Odyssey are playing, you've got this Brigitte sitting next to the Ana all the time. So you know Knoppies is going to feel fully able to just go aggressive, go into their backline, look for the picks, and not worry about whether Fluffy is going to survive or not, because there's this Brigitte just brawling out Dankil the minute he dives. From the side of 2XS though, they're now bringing out this Reaper, so we'll see whether that can have any impact in this game.
They managed to get the early pick, a little clumsy, picking off Rinkarara, and so that Echo, that one that's going to be looking for such angles, is going to be very difficult for them to get that damage. Going to be coming back quickly, but it's so far it's Rage Quit just managing to take that high ground advantage. 2XS pushing instead onto the point, have managed to tick up a little bit, but they're going to have to try and win out the rest of this team fight. Have managed to get a pick again, this time on JV26, but the damage is still there from the rest of the team. Trigger Happy managing to get some support and clear up the rest of 2XS. So 2XS getting the pickoffs in the beginning, but not managing managing to extend it out into anything significant.
And Paleo just looks completely out of these fights. Everything dies around him and behind him and in front of him. And he's just kind of standing there trying to get a grasp on what's going on in the fight, but he's not able to really get that value you want out of Orion in these situations. You know, the strategy doesn't suit him. They want to be playing aggressive and fast, but he's he's not fast enough as a hero to get into those positions on this Reinhardt. You maybe want to see a Diva or a Wrecking Ball in these situations instead.
I think as well, they seem to trying to be making a square peg fit into a round hole now. Again, just trying to push onto the fight, but they've still got to deal with these high ground advantages that Rage Quit is making such good use of. And so 2XS now again getting crowded back into that little room, taking so much damage. Winston not even managing to get healed up. He's going to have to jump into the center now. He's committed hard, and so Dankiel is going to have to try and do something. Instead, does go down, and now he's not going to be there to threaten JLV26. JLV26 just getting huge value now, clearing off, and so Rage Quit just managing to exacerbate this problem, and 2XS needs to find at least a way to flank around onto that high ground.
Yeah, we're just in, they're under such control, they have such control of this point now, and you know, they used 2 ults in that fight, and didn't really look threat 3 actually with the Primal Rage. You know, they used 3 ults in that fight, they still have 3 online. Coming out from 2XS now, you've got the Beach, you've got the Deadeye, you've got the Earth Shatter, but how do you use them to make maximum value out of them on this map? You know, you use the Deadeye, they're all just going to walk behind cover. You use the Shatter, how? You're on point and they're not. It's really, really hard for them to get value in these situations, and they need to start thinking about their pathing and their usage here.
Seems like they're going to try and roll this out now. They drop the Coalescence to start this fight. And they're saying to Rage Quit, you've got to send at least someone down. Now, managed to get that mission to try to drop a Deadeye, but still not managing to control this point. They're being shoved back a little bit. The charge comes through, manages to take down the Begetter, so that's going to be huge for them. That's going to be a lot of healing out, but there's a lot of damage having gone down as the Reaper falls in the back line. And so now 2XS under a bit of pressure, still managing to keep good positional point on this point, but they've got the first tick. It's going to be up to now Rage Quit, just being able to kite so well now. They've got Rinku, they've got the Winston, they've got the Diva, who are all just able to dodge around so much and put pressure from a distance that they managed to turn that position around. Just fighting exactly on their own points, and even the Death Blossom being committed at the end to try and drag it out, but 2XS only with a single tick on this point.
And that's incredibly intelligent play there from Odyssey, giving up the tick, knowing that, you know, a tick isn't going to win or lose the game for them. We just need to make sure that you know, we keep control of the points and make sure that we're able to keep them on point A, and we're giving ourselves a really good advantage. You know, with just the cleanup phase here, you're expecting that Odyssey, if they'd full held this, or whether they let it get to this, it's more or less the same push. It's 33.3 versus 37.7, so, you know, it's an irrelevant number. It's like half a second at most on capture progress. So they just have to win one fight here. And, you know, given the kind of trend of this game, you're expecting, unless 2XS drastically change how they've been playing, that Odyssey are really, really going to be able to just play the things they know, play the way they've practiced, and come out from this map and really, really play a very, very strong strategy.
Rage Quit certainly showing why they have been here in this elite division, though. You know, it's a team that you don't want to have any teams dropping out, but you've got to give chances for those lower teams to play in. Here so far, Rage Quit just looking like the team that definitely deserves. And maybe it's that season of playing with such good players that gives you that sort of advantage and just shows the growth that they've been able to do as a team so far against teams like 2XS, who are basically the upper teams of the lower bracket. So we talked in the beginning about how much a team wants to stay in that upper bracket and what sort of opportunities and growth it gives them. Rage Quit's showing what it really can do.
Yeah, no, I think that's, you know, we talk about Rage Quit and we're talking about a team that they haven't looked like a bad team. They had a bit of a slump in the qualification stage, and, you know, they started to slip out of it in the first leg here. We're looking at a team that was able to take maps of Kintsugi, take maps of Evo, and, you know, you're expecting them to be able to win these games quite convincingly. It's just a concept of consistency, and coming to this game they've been very, very steady and very, very consistent, and if they continue match, you know, we're expecting to see them next leg as well.
Now they've got a definite thought pattern here as well, just threatening that high ground. Just, you can see how much Rage Quit Odyssey loves to take that high ground in all of these fights. Just secure themselves the angle, just giving themselves the percentage fights that they can win in every single one. Just now pushing forward, leaping from rooftop to rooftop, and just being able to get themselves into good position. 2XS again being shoved into this little side room, and when you can't fight out of there, it doesn't matter about your barriers, you've got to start getting picks of your own. when you can't get any picks, because look at this triangulation. They've got an Ana that's tucked away, and it just allows these tanks to dive into the back line, supported by Rinku. They've even got JRV26 on that tracer, managing to get some space and find the pick onto the McCree. And so now Rage Quit just having that ability to choose this fight, push forward as they want, and get whatever picks that they want. So far, 2XS not managing to even get a single pick off Rage Quit Odyssey, and so Rage Quit now clears this out, manages to get up to this 30s. And takes this game 3-0.
Yeah, and that was absolute control there from Rage Quit, immediately forcing the Widowmaker off the high ground. And once they forced them off the high ground there, you know, both DPS are sitting behind shields there for 2XS, not really able to get the angle, get the picks that they need to really win against this dive comp. And they were just able to just play this war of attrition, this, you know, war of control and taking up the space, and really just completely, like, you know, taking advantages in those fights that 2XS just were never able to find an answer to. And it's the story that we saw on Blizzard World as well. They had such good control of that high ground. And here we go again, like complete control on the scorecards, complete control on the in the team, and complete control in the game, really.
I love that the top kills there was not the DPS players, it was the tank players. Rage Quit just knew exactly where they had to threaten at any stage, dove onto it, and took the fight. That's all they had to do. They had such a plan behind it that the tanks led forwards, supported by people like Rinkararo and JRV26, both of which who showed a lot of proficiency, and won the team fight from exactly where they wanted to fight.
I think more like relevantly actually is that it's not even the main tank player, it's the off tank player. So you're looking at the off tank, something which 2XS for a lot of this game didn't have. They were playing a lot of Ryan Winston, you know, so they're playing a roster of two main tanks, but it's actually, you know, Odyssey who's showing the value of that off tank, showing the value of, you know, our diva can follow up on our Winston's dives, our diva can help him survive that, and our diva can be a really, really present threat to your engagement here and get her own picks. You know, so that's really, really well played there from Odyssey, and really, really well played there from Trigger Happy to show the value of an off tank, to show the value of cohesive team compositions, and really from Odyssey to show the value of that teamwork there and that understanding of map awareness and map control to really win that game.
So do you have someone who stood out then? Rage Quit, obviously the spirit team here, and if you guys weren't aware, they are now going to be able to stay in this elite division, secure themselves another leg up here with the big boys, and really grow even more as a team. So really looking good here tonight. Some problems with consistency over the season, but coming through with it tonight. So do you have anyone, Blur, who really stood out? Probably from Odyssey?
Yeah, I would think it would have to be from Odyssey. They played really, really well this entire game through. And I think it'd have to be Trigger Happy. I think, you know, Trigger Happy was constantly a thorn in the side of 2XS. Put a lot of pressure on the Sigma, you know, on the night market map where they were able to just take complete control of the map, on the Blizzard World game where they were able to even like win that game without even having to actually fight that last fight on point. Yeah. And, you know, on the Diva as well, they completely controlling 2XS when they played dive on both Lijiang Gardens and on Volskaya Industries. They put themselves in such a strong advantage, like with their off tank and with their kind of off tank's play level, that they were able to just have that consistency of tanking awareness and consistency of pressure coming out from their team. I think that for me puts Trigger as the player of this match.
I can 100% agree. Like, I'm a support main, and to see those guys, Shadows and Fluffy were never threatened that entire game. They was just far away from the action. They just said, go tanks, go, and supported them from afar. So, like, the amount of space and the amount of pressure that they were able to exert as players, and with Trigger Happy being able to dive wherever you wanted, you know, Diva in your face is never something to laugh at. And so they just played so well as a team, enabled to just use those tanks as this battering ram into the backline of 2XS. So we're going to try and get Trigger Happy into the chat. I'm excited to see what he thinks and what he thinks of going forward, because they've now secured themselves here at the top. It's fantastic. What was the standout play, do you think, of any of these matches? Your highlight of the entire series tonight?
I think it has to be that Blizzard World last fight. You know, where they're coming in with 5 ults aside. Yeah, where they're coming in 5 ults aside, you think it's going to be this messy, grand fight, and then just, you know, they just get lifted, and it's just over before you even know it.
I must admit, I thought we were going to be going for a little bit further there. Like, I was still in an analysis mode there of just like, how do they win this fight? What is the strategy? No, it's kind of like in the Matrix when Neo just is like, no bullets. no. And then like they just chill, and they're just like, no, you guys can stay there. Just time out.
Yeah, and I think that's very much the story of that Blizzard World game was that, you know, we were expecting this drawn out kind of difficult fight, but then we have, you know, Trigger lifting them off point, and that's the game. And it was just, you know, a completely anticlimactic end to what was actually a really, really tight fought game, a fight of tactics in that game, and that was, you know, just such a moment. It was such a moment that just drew out there. But I think, you know, if we're looking at a moment that was actually out of a constructive team fight, I'd say probably Paleo Shatter in the first game, the one that absolutely shocked Odyssey just right at the beginning to actually, you know, put them in a position to kind of upset Odyssey and put them in an uncomfortable position. I do see Triggers below us now, so we probably head down for that.
Let's do it. Trigger happy, well done for you guys tonight. A little bit of a shaky first round on Li Zhang there, but coming back with an incredibly comfortable looking 3-0 victory. What do you think for tonight's game?
It was pretty well organized after that. I guess we just had to just get our heads from that first round of Li Zhang. But we just gathered our thoughts, and we just continued.
So coming into that first round, you know, you would have been expecting, you know, you're looking at a team from a division below you, you're not expecting too tough a game. And they kind of came out super aggressive and blitzed through that first round.
Yeah.
Were you guys a little bit shaken after that? Did you struggle a little bit after that? Or were you immediately like, okay, next map, 0-0, let's go again?
It was precisely like that. When we just okay, let's focus up. This is our main composition. We know what to do and how to handle this. And we just went again.
So when you guys were approaching these team fights, we saw a lot of variation in your compositions and the way you played it, but every single one of them seemed to be very well executed, whether it was the dive or the bunker strat. You guys seem to have a very definite idea of what you wanted to do in each map. Now, was that something that you guys were just comfortable playing that specific composition on that map, or did you change it up to compensate for the fact that you were playing 2XS specifically tonight?
We just went with our comfortable picks. And played against them. So it's basically that.
Well, makes sense. Yeah.
Looking forward to the next leg. You guys struggled a lot this leg with, you know, kind of finding the level of your opponents in this leg with the Evos and the Kinsugis and everything. But you didn't show that you were below their level. You know, you kind of just showed that, you know, you struggled to maintain that consistency across the games. Is there anything that you're going to be looking at for the next leg to kind of just, you know, stabilize that, get yourselves into a position that's, you know, you're able to turn that one map into 3, or that, you know, a couple of one team fights into a map or whatever?
Yeah, I think we're just gonna just put our heads in the game and just give it all our shots. I think throughout this whole this first leg, I personally myself didn't put my all effort. But just, I think it was when it was later in around the league, I was just okay, I gotta focus and also keep up the team up and just do our best.
So you must be happy though that even besides tonight's map where you won this quite significantly and quite comfortably for you, you must be quite happy that now after all the dust is starting to settle in the whole ATK league, you guys are still standing as one of the top teams in South Africa, still making it through into that elite division. How do you feel about the growth of your team over this first leg up to this point since the Overwatch by ATK tournament started?
Oh, I'm really happy with the team. We're just growing with each other and improving, and this obviously with our coach Blur getting comfortable with the tactics and keep growing as a team.
It's a bit of an awkward one being called out on stream. But yeah, so looking into this now, you know, you're obviously playing against a team today that you're playing a little bit of unorthodox strats against. You know, but looking forward, are you feeling that you guys are comfortable grasping the meta and grasping forward, or, you know, do you think that's, you know, the strats of the likes of 2XS are running are going to be something that we're going to see more of going forward?
Well, okay, from our side, to give them advice, I think they do need to be a little bit flexible, especially terms of maps. They should change it around because they can get punished easily. But for our standards, I think just getting used to like different meta picks around the maps, pools, it helps us a lot. Yeah.
Well, we definitely want to see more of you guys in the future. You're going to be sticking now in that elite division. And so I'm sure that you've got a lot of fans here tonight, people that were shouting for you. Good job to you guys in the chat. Shout out to everyone who was chanting for Rage Quit Odyssey here. Where can we find you if we want to keep up to date with more of you personally as the off-tank of the Stars? And your team as in general, if we want to keep up to date with what's happening in the world of Rage Quit Odyssey?
You can, first of all, for the team, you can find them like RQ_Odyssey on Twitter. And you can find me on TriggerHappy17 on Twitter.
TriggerHappy17, I love it. And from our team who came in second place tonight, unfortunately, 2XS played valiantly from here tonight. If you guys are looking to find them in the future, you must be aware they are changing their name. They are going to be Overclocked and Overclocked Esports. And so if you're looking for them in the future, now you know. You heard it here first. Probably not first. But if you want to follow them on their Twitter and all their socials, it is going to be at OverclockedZA is where you're going to be able to keep up to date with what's happening in the world of 2XS. Blur, this was your team here tonight. Do you have any final thoughts that you think, any words of congratulations?
Well, they're not going to be getting into trouble in VOD review on Monday, so that's good.
Hell yeah.
But, it was a really good game all around. And I think, from the side of Odyssey here, we saw a lot of really good consistent play. From the side of 2XS, maybe they just need to find that consistency in themselves and in their play style. Because they're not a bad team, and you can see they're not a bad team. But, it's a little... Playing at these levels is a little bit more than that. It's a little bit more of finding, strategies that work cohesively and finding... kind of situations that they want to be putting themselves in that will be more optimal, more than that. Because we saw a lot of those team fights were won by Odyssey just having control of that high ground, and 2XS never looking to try to bridge that. So I think looking forward, that's exactly what we're going to be wanting to see from 2XS: a little bit more consistency and a little bit more coherency, and then they could be a team that's challenging the Odysseys and the Evos and the elite division teams that we're speaking so highly of.
When you're putting yourself at the beginning of the fight into a fight that's you've only got like a 30% chance to win. If you're going against a team that has the high ground advantage, the high ground has like a 70% advantage in the fight anyway, just from like pure win-loss statistics. When you're doing that, when you're setting yourself up for those things, you're setting yourself that you got a 30% chance to win. You can't expect to win those things consistently. And so while it might work on a control point or even in the first point of an assault map, it's not going to take you through anything that's going to be an extended fight or a logical strategy to follow. You've got to give yourself the best chance that you've got. And so 2XS maybe you just need to think about it. It doesn't matter your mechanical skill at that stage. If you can start headshotting 3 people in a row as Hanzo, you're still not going to win all those fights that you need to push forward at the end of the day. So Blur, your team obviously doing very well. Where can we find out all your wisdom that you have to say that has come and shone through so well here tonight?
Oh, I'm not so sure about all the wisdom, but you can definitely find me on Twitter at blur_RSA. And yeah, that's about it for now.
Guys, this whole production could not have been made possible without the wonderful Defect there as our production manager here tonight. So please go and follow him on the social medias. It's Defect_ZA, DEFFECT_ZA. Defect. I'm sure it's there on stream. Otherwise, I have been Ultraism here tonight at Ultraism on all the social medias. And this was your ATK playoffs between RQ Odyssey, Rage Quit Odyssey, who has managed to secure themselves a position now in the Elite Division. 2XS going to have to go back to that Challenger Division, try again, refine some of their strategies, and give it a try next time. Blur, last word for the evening?
I think it was a fantastic game to watch from both sides, and I'm really, really keen to see more of these teams in the future.
I'm sure you guys are as well, so we'll catch you in that next game, guys. Thanks so much for joining in, and we'll see you. Also, make sure to follow Overwatch ZA. ZA
Overwatch.
ZA Overwatch for all the action on all of the tournaments and all of the matches, just in general, and obviously at ATK Zone, the guys who bring you these fantastic tournaments. Other than that, go follow all of those so that we can see you next time.